I can't see De Zerbi coming in. I can't see Zinedine Zidane coming in. I don't think they fit the bill where they are right now. They need someone who knows Bayern, who can make through this process, the transition of the generation of Neuer and Müller, and then take on a new, young, modern Bayern Munich for the next season.
Hi and welcome to the German Fussball Podcast. I'm your host, Markus Fjörtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjörtoft. We had Dortmund win the Klassiker. We had Leverkusen win late on. Before we go into that though, Dad, I do want to address who is going to coach Bayern next season. We've heard a lot of names. We've heard De Zerbi, we've heard Ragnick, and we've even heard Julian Nagelsmann, who was fired by Bayern last season. I just want to sort of address that before we go into the games, Dad. We are getting into April. We are into April. Xabi Alonso has declared that he is staying on with Leverkusen. Clubs such as Bayern want to get this set before going into next season so that it's well established and they have the foundations going to next season. Where do we start in terms of this overall discussion analysis as to where Bayern are in their managerial hunt, and is it Julian Nagelsmann who is the solution?
Well, two reasons why it happened all over again is, first of all, of course, that the first alternative, Xabi Alonso said, and we had a special episode on this, that he will stay in Leverkusen. Point two is, like you were saying, they're losing the Klassiker at home, meaning they are 13 points after Leverkusen. There could be, at the time when Hoffenheim was 1-0 and they could beat Bayern, Dortmund, they could be 7. So it just shows you how big that could be. And then Tuchel then after the game congratulated Dortmund, Leverkusen on their win of the trophy of Bundesliga. And that kind of annoyed a lot of people, that provocated. There was someone saying that he's doing that because he wants to be fired. And before I start with Nagelsmann, Marcus, I will even put another name on the list, Bild Zeitung, who is very opinionated in Germany, a lot of reading that. They say that Thomas Müller could be the playing coach, just to make this whole complicated. So Thomas Müller, the playing coach, there are all kind of alternatives now running around and being spun among our friends in the punditry in Germany. But I would say that you make a good point, because it's not only important to have your coach ready for a season so that you know that you don't have to be bothered about that, but it's just so many different contracts with Kimmich. What about Leroy Sané? What about new players coming in? Then they need to know which coach they do have. And at the moment, they're talking about the list of so many names in there. And to complicate this is, of course, that Julian Nagelsmann, after the 2 games against France and Netherlands, everybody in Germany wants him to stay, well, except maybe some of the Bayern fans want him to extend his contract for Germany. And he then says, yeah, well, I will do that maybe, and maybe I will do it before the Euros, but then they will need a clause in the contract saying if you get knocked out in the group stage, you won't stay on. So this is the world of Julian Nagelsmann. But let's put this very clear, Marcus, and this is my take on this. Julian Nagelsmann was fired at Germany. And to be fair to one of my favorite coaches, Thomas Tuchel, it hasn't worked out. He is gone now. They need to find a new coach. The 2 who fired him, Oliver Kahn and Salihamidzic, are both gone. Yes, we do know that nothing happened at Bayern Munich without Uli Hoeneß knows about it. But he's put himself in a position where he says, that surprised me. People saw that as a criticism of Tuchel, but he said that did surprise me. So I think now that Bayern should be humble. They should just sit down and think that Germany will need to wait. Germany need to find another Bundescoach, but Bayern need to do a generation change. That's the reason they put Julian Nagelsmann in there. And then they would just hold their hands up and say, we did a mistake. Julian Nagelsmann is perfect to this process. We know that we need new ideas in. and maybe saying, yeah, new ideas being the old coach, but he never had the time to fulfill that. And I think that Bayern need to move fast because there are a lot of other clubs looking for a coach. I'm not saying that Julian Nagelsmann will be the favorite at Liverpool, but I'm saying that there is a process going on at Manchester United as well. And you see they were looking for new ideas, new culture, a philosophy, the 1% kind of philosophy will do everything better. And Julian Nagelsmann could fit the bill there too. So I think that Manchester United will be in the market. But I also think that Bayern, are they supposed to get a good coach? I can only see, I can't see past Julian Nagelsmann. I can't see the Serbi coming in. I can't see Zinedine Zidane coming in. I don't think they fit the bill where they are right now. They need someone who knows Bayern, who can make through this process, the transition of the generation of Neuer and Müller, and then take on a new, young, modern Bayern Munich for the next season.
Yeah, and Ralf Rangnick has also been named, but in my opinion, and I think the general opinion also being the fact that I don't think it's exciting enough as such. I think you come into someone to steady the ship, but as you addressed, Bayern, and maybe Tuchel has made that inadvertently or intentionally clear, that Bayern need a rebuild. They need new players, they need new stimuli, and such is the case for any successful organization. And you see some of the best well-run clubs, they need a renewal as such in terms of players, and now they've done so with the leadership group as such. And Julian Nagelsmann fits the bill in every way conceivable, you would think, except for that slight inconvenience of being fired last season. Then we can see it from Julian Nagelsmann's point of view, who is still young, and whether that Bayern opportunity will come again, that he has a good feel about Germany now. He hopefully does well at the tournament, and he thinks, okay, I don't need to rush into this Bayern job either. So it will be interesting to see how he thinks of it, despite the allure that always exists for Bayern.
And 2 words on Ralf Rangnick. The thing is with Ralf Rangnick that he is everything. I'm a big fan of him as well. Ralf Rangnick is a club builder. He's also now showed that he is a football group builder, what he did by Red Bull. And now he showed at Austria that he is a federation builder. He is everything. He is Ebel. He is Freund. He is the coach. He is everything. That's why I don't think he will take the job at Bayern, because he knows that he needs to have the power to do more or less everything at the club. That was maybe one of the reasons he failed at Manchester United, because he was not able to do everything. And this more or less now famous last interview from him is saying that how everything needed to change, that maybe fits more the bill with Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Brailsford than he is doing right now at Bayern. So I don't think Ralf will take that. I don't think he will be offered a job. I think that the main candidate now, and they shouldn't look any further, they should do everything, Max Ebel and Christoph Freund, new regime since he was fired, and get Julian Nagelsmann back in the position.
What an incredible turnaround that would be. Imagine if someone said that a year ago. Shifting into Bayern then, that 2-0 at home they lost to Borussia Dortmund. And the joke being that Dortmund finally won a Klassiker when the title wasn't on the line. But we cannot look away from one, I'd say, Dortmund's performance, one that in very many ways mirrored their performances in the Champions League in terms of how they tactically approached it. I think they perfected a lot of the things I think they intended with that game. And then Bayern, who also were very poor. There was that acknowledgement from Tuchel after the game. It was lethargic, it was slow, it wasn't anything from which they had worked on. Dortmund now are looking to secure a Champions League place. Bayern have given up on the league, it seems, and then they have a Champions League tie coming up against Arsenal. What's left for Bayern this season, Dad? Where do they go from here with a few weeks left of the season still to go?
Well, first of all, to defend the second place. I mean, they were lucky that Stuttgart only played 3-3 against Heidenheim, or they will be very close to them. So they should secure the second place. That is point one. I think it's quite hard, Marcus, to talk about that game without talking about Leverkusen, because the Leverkusen game was so a typical Leverkusen game. It's like they're sending messages to Bayern. They just tease them a bit. I mean, I had one of those. I went for my Eastern holiday. I went to England. I was early there. On Saturday, I was more or less in my room for 12 hours just looking at games. And I was obviously looking at the Leverkusen game. And I was just thinking, Baumann, the Hoffenheim goalkeeper, was brilliant. They hit the bar. They created a lot of chances. Our friend Bayer, the very talented striker of Hoffenheim, gave them the 1-0 lead, but you still think there's enough time. So it's getting nearer and nearer to the end. Of all people, Andrich scored a 1-1. And you think, well, still they could send some signal to Bayern. Maybe there is a chance for them and everything. And of course, Patrick scoring late, Schick, that he probably will be called now after his career, doing it the 2-1 for them, winning at Bayern Arena. That, by the way, have a fantastic atmosphere at the moment. So this is the game before the Topspiel in Germany. German time is 6:30. I do think, should this happen? Of course not. Is that a bit unprofessional? Yeah, you can make a case of that. That took a bit steam out of Bayern. I think that killed them off. And the funny thing is that Tuchel admitted to say, yeah, maybe it did. And you just feel, it's that possible? It's a full house at Allianz Arena. They're playing Dortmund. It's prestige. And they came forward without passion, without intensity, with no energy. Joshua Kimmich, after the game, he was so sad. He was nearly crying, standing there saying, I can't believe that we play a game like that. And it's lost now. They have 13 points after Bayer Leverkusen. 13. I mean, we could hope that it could be a tough battle till the end of the season. But now, 13 points. Now people start counting out when they can win the league. I mean, it's quite easy. You just see how many games left and time 3. And then you know when that could happen. But as Bayern is playing at the moment, that could happen sooner rather than later.
It was Dortmund's first Bundesliga win in Munich since 2014. That was before Germany became World Cup champions. That's how long it's been. And
I remember that game. I was at that game.
Oh yeah.
I remember that was on the Klopp. And I remember after the game, they said Klopp had told them in the dressing room before they went out, we go all in. We go very offensively in this game. And Klopp said, and I do remember that because I felt that was the Klopp that I've learned to know much even more later. He said, if we lose, this is on me. I'll take the blame. If you win, this is on you. Just go for it. And I remember when I was told that in the catacombs of I still get goosebumps because that is the coach you want to have. That is, of course, the coach you want to have if you do win. So that was Jürgen Klopp 2014.
Yeah, and it seemed like that was the intention of Dortmund going into that game, and it did serve them well, as opposed to perhaps previous years in which they hoped to maybe get a result. It was Adeyemi's third goal in his last 4 Bundesliga games. It was Julian Nagelsmann's Ryerson, we have to say it as Norwegian. It was his 4th Bundesliga goal of the season, which is the highest of any top-flight defender in the Bundesliga. And then Mats Hummels made his 29th De Klassiker appearances, which is an all-time
And how good was he?
record.
I mean, Mats Hummels was
Did you see
unbelievable.
that? Did you see that goal line clearance with his foot? I mean, for me, that is outstanding defending. But to see him back, like you say, Dad, in great form, which is undoubtedly a reaction to the fact that upon Nagelsmann's selection for the last squad, there was only one Dortmund player present. That was Niklas Füllkrug. There were some good applications there, Dad, and Julian Brandt got his 11th assist of the Bundesliga. That makes him top of the charts with Grimaldo and Sané as well.
Yeah, I mean, Mats Hummels. I mean, I've been critical to Mats Hummels. I think I've been critical, rightly so, when he's defending bad. But in this game, and some games this season, he's been amazing. And there is talk about him retire after the season. They did analysis of his comments after the game and so on. But I think that if he fits the bill, if they want to build him into the hierarchy of Dortmund, maybe we'll get another season. Maybe we'll get a role that, when needed, he will play. But again, big compliment to Mats Hummels. And what he did there on the line, I mean, that is what you see from Erling Haaland. He's like I'm not saying 20 years younger, but he's 10 years younger. And there was an acrobatic thing that you so seldom see. So Mats Hummels, again, fantastic in this game. And he gave himself an outsider chance to get into the German squad. And why? Maybe there are better defenders around, but you have a Rüdiger, you have a Tah, but you need that kind of player as well, because there will be games, hopefully for Germany, where they'll be very dominant. There will be a lot on the ball. Then they maybe need a Hummels who can give the ball to Kroos or get the ball into Gundogan. So, yeah, I think he's got a bigger chance than a lot of the other Dortmund boys to get in there by the end of when the squad will be presented.
2-0, that was a good cushion for Dortmund to get, because Leipzig dropped points to Mainz at home, which was an important point for Mainz, even though Mainz and Köln need to start winning games as they fight out to avoid that final relegation spot, with Darmstadt all but going down, it seems. Dortmund's got a tough program coming up. They got obviously Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. As we get towards the end here, Dad, just final on Dortmund, with Edin Terzić, just play with the idea here. He makes Champions League semi-final, but he gets fourth. So it qualifies for Champions League. Let's say Stuttgart, let's say Bayern get top three. So he gets fourth in Champions League semi-final. Does that justify Edin Terzic's role as manager of Dortmund, or do they still need to look for someone else if they want to take that next step?
For example, Julian Nagelsmann, who is then a candidate for Germany and maybe a return to Bayern Munich. I think that this game, especially, will save his job because when you do tactical great games like this, and as you were saying, he's done that in the Champions League too, that is kind of justified him being there. I think a lot of things worked out after this game. Sebastian Kehl has been, that we talked about him, what will happen to him? Will he take over the job of Watzke, who is leave the club eventually in 1 year? Will they put on a new sports director? Sven Minslav is auf dem Weg, on the way back to Dortmund as a more technical kind of recruit. He used to be there, and he's been traveling around a bit, coming back home. So I think a lot of things came to place for Dortmund after this game. And another consequence of that, Marcus, I'm not saying that Markus Krösche, my friend at Eintracht Frankfurt, signed a new deal for Eintracht today on Tuesday, but he was a candidate for Dortmund. Today at 1:30 Norwegian time, there was a press conference in Frankfurt with the Aufsichtsrat, Philipp Holzer, and Markus Krösche said that he has signed a new contract at Eintracht Frankfurt to 2028. And this is a massive signing for Eintracht Frankfurt. He has done ever so well, winning the Europa League final, getting into Champions League, is now in the 6th position. They couldn't win this round, unfortunately, 0-0 against Union Berlin. Freiburg winning 3-0 at Gladbach, and Augsburg couldn't win at home against Köln. So they're still there in the 6th position, but I think that is very vital for them. And Krösche is kind of the continuity. He's not only, he knows his sport, he's a good communicator. He's a calm guy who makes long-term plans, short-term plans. He's just one of the good lads and very knowledgeable lad. And I think that is very, very important for Eintracht Frankfurt's future. I've said it, and I've said it again. I think that Eintracht Frankfurt, with their position at the Finanzmetropole Frankfurt, with their management, with the people in and around and the money in and around the club, they could be a challenger for Bayern, for Leverkusen, for Leipzig, for Dortmund. We can put Stuttgart in there, but it's got to be a target for Bayern, for Eintracht Frankfurt to be amongst the teams who are fighting out for a Champions League position. And I think by getting Markus Krösche to sign and stay and commit his future to the club, that is a very vital step for the club to reach that target.
No, I completely agree. All the foundations in place there to be amongst the very best. A big announcement, a big signing for re-signing, I guess, for Eintracht Frankfurt. As far as games go, we also mentioned that Ralf Hasenhüttl won with Wolfsburg away to Bremen as well. Bochum drew Darmstadt, and an intriguing 3-3 draw between Stuttgart and Heidenheim. That concludes our Bundesliga round. We are recording this on a Tuesday. There will be Kaiserslautern against Saarbrücken, which will be an incredible one. It will be Leverkusen, Fortuna Düsseldorf. That will be the German Cup. And then we get into the European games as well. We're getting into crunch season, and it is getting more and more exciting. Dad, thank you so much for joining, as always, and auf Wiedersehen.